peoples would. They didn't
Recording is
hoard.
on.
They didn't hoard wealth or anything like that. They would, the only things that mattered to them were their tools, because that's all that matters for your day-to-day activities. But yeah, it's sort of rethinking the way you think about wealth. I wouldn't be investing with the idea that you're going to retire when you're 65 and have, your life cut out for you or anything like that.
Well, gold and silver, especially gold, has still got also an international value, whether it's Asia or Africa, because it's a traditional value that people are using. Look at the jewelry for women. Even in North Africa, silver was they used to adorn women with silver when they got married and afterwards, and they would be wearing all their wealth on them. And the gold in Africa and India at weddings and stuff, it's a really traditional way of carrying your wealth, and to have an exchange. Yes, and it's shiny and beautiful. That's true. You can't neglect that. There's something beautiful about it, and silver too. So it's not just but yeah, it's ancient, it's international, it's interesting. It's interesting to take your money out anyway of the bank now and quick, if you have any, because a lot of people don't have any anymore now. I think it's just we're probably talking about a few privileged people who can say, oh well, I'm going to buy this, buy that, buy some nice property, tools, boats, things like that. But we have to think in terms of humans too, and having around you good skills and people you can trust is probably better than gold and silver. And whether you're in a city or in the country, I think even though you might not find the perfect anarchist profile and etc., but you need to assess the what you can give and what you can contribute to the general welfare.
I feel like the way to think about it is that during the collapse, so we're going to, there's going to be stages and fits and starts, and you're going to have this point. Well, the thing that's staring us down the barrel of a gun right now, obviously, is the financial system. I mean, that is just no doubt it is coming. There's going to be some serious moves, and it's bound to happen soon. I think this whole situation with Russia-Ukraine has increased that likelihood. Especially the European system is looking, very shaky now, and in that process, before the longer term, where you're thinking, okay, we're in a sort of a collapse situation where you're reliant on your neighbors and small communities, and there's major breakdown in all of these fundamental key infrastructure things. On that road, there'll be times when that gold and silver, like I said, there'll be a short window where it'll be like there needs to be a new price floor set, like a new for things. And in that situation, the people that are holding some of that gold or silver, you could be very helpful to people around you. So it's not to be greedy or to think that you're gonna somehow get rich or something. It's just to be like, to say that you'll be insulated, and it's like an insurance, and you'll be able to help people around you who haven't prepared in that way, I suppose, is the way to think of it. It's like an insurance.
It will help you to trade, because they won't no more.
Yeah, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is that along the way, of collapse, like before we get to this sort of very far off point where, cars aren't running anymore, transport systems are completely down, and we really are in some awful situation. Yeah. It's along that road that money could be useful, because that is true money.
I don't think we should pretend as soon as possible that it has happened, because all this talking about stages of collapse and all that to me seems very theoretical and very not practical either, because as Mr. McKee was saying earlier, the sooner we remove ourselves from the system, the easier it's going to be, the more practice we're going to get. And if we think, oh well, we're in the phase 1 and the phase 2 will be using, I'm not contradicting what you're saying, Tom, but I'm thinking frame of mind, like maybe we should jump to collapse as quick as possible, and not think, oh well, it's
More like an accelerationist point of view. Yeah, but I just feel like but then you're closing off avenues. Yeah, I mean, you could take that viewpoint. I mean, yeah, if you're in a situation where you're like, I've just had it, like, let's just jump ship now and just go all in on, just being local and just foraging and just, cut yourself off completely and go off grid. I don't see that for some people that will be probably the case, and they will. But I think there'll be other people where it'll be like more beneficial just to, I'm not saying to hang on to the system, but to just use the resources you have. It's just another resource, to aid you along the journey.
But what is beneficial? You see, psychologically, I don't think it is beneficial. I think if you want to prepare in every way, you have to nearly pretend that the system is already broken. It is broken anyway, but that it's you kind of, what Hugh was saying, you kind of the rush. You're already there when it's happened, so you've got an enormous experience already. It doesn't mean that you have to suddenly just take to the woods and with your rucksack and start to live, off grid straight away. But what I mean is that if you have frame of mind where you are removing yourself, you start down an avenue that can only be beneficial to you. But I don't think it's beneficial to think, well, I'll hold on to this and I'll hold on to that, and it might just, it's a frame of mind. It's psychological what I'm talking about. Did you see what I mean?
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm coming across as wrong. I'm trying to sort of articulate what I mean, but as Hugh has always said, it's just to gather people. So like on this, you're right. We're in. This is collapse. Like it's happening. It's like the long emergency, as Howard Kunstler used to say. I like that book of his, and along that long emergency, you still want to eat. We don't want to die. We're not going to just commit suicide. So if I want to eat, then I want to be able to like sell some resources, some tools, or some gold or some silver to obtain some food, or I just find some food. But you see what I mean? It's not to say that trying to hold on to things, but I know you're thinking, in the psychological way. But if we're just talking about the practicalities of the journey to apocalypse, or where we're in apocalypse. But you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear your point of view. It's interesting. Is there anyone else who has would like to contribute? Because I think this is a very important aspect of where we are now, and be part of the world but not of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole not hanging on to things is the right way to think about it, but in that sort of making your sphere smaller or whatever, that's where this whole idea of gold or tangible stuff comes into play. If you're trying to localize and decentralize and all of that stuff, you'd still want things to barter with, if you're trying to sort of get out of the system. And that could be anything. It could be skills, could be the ability to go do work for someone else or help them out in some way in exchange for something else. And that's, I think, the way to think about it if you're trying to think about it from sort of a community standpoint. And that's the way to think about things like silver and gold and stuff is uh, just like your skills would always have value, sort of no matter what. Some of this stuff would have value no matter what. If you're in a world where gold and silver don't have any value, there probably aren't any people left. In which case, everything we're talking about is null and void. Um, so, yeah, it's not to think of it as getting rich or hoarding or whatever in order to prop up your own family or whatever, but to think about it as, I guess you can kind of think about it as somewhat sticking it to the system itself. If you have something that cannot be controlled by a centralized system, like physical possessions, tools, or your skills, or silver and gold in this case, um, then you'd always have something of value to share with other people and exchange with them. I think we're heading into a time where, or in a time right now, um, where people are having, they just have less and less because they put all of their supposed wealth, all these things they have are really just dollars, which is nothing. It's just pieces of paper that have whatever value the system itself says. And as time goes on, it'll be worth less and less. People will have less and less. And yeah, you can think about it like you have more to give, you have more to exchange, you have more to help other people with. If you have some.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're talking right now about rolling out a digital currency. That's not a conspiracy theory or whatever. That's mainstream stuff right now. Biden's saying they're going to move to a digital currency, and to think about it in terms of like if you have anything saved up, and they say tomorrow it's worth 10% of what you have right now, well, then you're done, and you have nothing else to offer to people. So yeah, to think of it as not selfish, but how you can help other people in the future is, I think, the way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about the digital currencies, yeah, they've been talking about that for forever and a day, and they're all actively looking at it. But I heard a good piece by Alistair McLeod, and his analysis was that, trying to get that through, imagine them trying to get that through Congress and how long it takes them to get stuff through now, and in an emergency, trying to get that through. I mean, it would take years, and they have barely started on it. So the chances of them being able to do that when everything is going tits up, I just don't give them the credence to. I just don't believe that they'd be able to. And even if they did, can you imagine what the people are going to be like? They're going to be like, oh, money's worth fuck all. Why should we believe this is worth anything? It happened before. There's precedent for this as well. It happened in France. John Law, was it you had the territoire, mandat territoire or something. There was a currency they brought in after the collapse of one of the currencies back in the 18th century. Hugh talks about this before. And they tried to bring in another currency, and it lasted months before it was just the same situation. So the problem is when people lose confidence, then the best thing to have will be to be able to have a little bit of those little nuggets to help others around you. And that's the point of it, as you're saying. You're absolutely right. It's to just, because if you give, then things will come back in return, won't they? It's the law of the universe, isn't it?
Yeah, no, totally. I think they have their eye somewhat on 2030, as that's sort of the convergence for a lot of the plans and stuff. And as you know, the best laid plans of mice and man have to go awry. Who knows how successful they'll be in it. I see how quickly they implemented everything during Corona, and I would not underestimate the ability of them to change things rather quickly. They have some serious motivation these days, it seems, to put these plans into place. But whether or not they're successful, the idea is still the same: is that people are, at least in this country, at least in America, getting poorer by the day, and they're just going to have less and less, no matter what. That's completely unavoidable. No one these days is going to have more in the way of living standards, as they're defined in the West, at least, than their parents did. Um, so, yeah, just simplifying things and getting back to basics as much as you can across the board is the way to think about it, because who knows what the future looks like. But yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the positives you could take from all this monetary craziness, these Keynesian madmen that have run this system, is that when people lose faith and confidence in money, when you start corrupting the money supply, that's a very fundamental thing. I think it's a lot of people think, oh, it's just some boring thing, and like, who cares? And it's like, but actually, it's quite interesting. It's quite fascinating. That is very basis of how we have evolved as a species. And you go corrupting that, people get very angry, and I think it will be quite fascinating to see. And I said a long time ago, I kept saying, and that was why I always said that Hugh's idea of the debt strike was one of the most powerful ideas he had. That was absolutely on the money. Excuse the pun, but it was absolutely brilliant, because people, if they could well just be like, well, fuck this then, and that might actually just cause a rebellion or a revolution, as some people might like to see, to just bring it all down. Yeah.
Maybe, but I would say, to push back on that a little bit, that we were talking earlier about how people don't have the rebellious nature in them, and they do go along with a whole lot of things that the government imposes on them. And
You're
I don't
right.
know.
Yeah, I did say that. I will
I
concede that. Yeah, I contradict myself there, but I will just say, I mean, nobody knows, because this hasn't happened in a long time, and I mean, it's been brewing since 1970, or whenever Nixon took us off the gold standard, took the US dollar off the gold standard, and I mean, that's a long run. And I just feel like, yeah, if people people do get very desperate and do crazy shit when things get real. So who knows? I mean, maybe not. Maybe people just are too infantilized now, and they're just too reliant on the state. But yeah.
Well, if you just think of it in terms of where their food comes from, right? We're talking about, that's what it always comes back to. A whole lot of people in cities and stuff are dependent on what's actually a very centralized system of food distribution. There's only a couple major companies in this country that produce food. I mean, there's only, gosh, I want to say like 4 or 5 different crop production companies that account for 80% of the food. And the same goes for the distribution and stuff. So it can be controlled a lot more than a lot of people think. And if they were to say something like, the only thing that works at these grocery stores is uh, digital, whatever, you have to pay digitally, and that is some kind of digital currency that's uh, centralized, and it's a central bank digital currency where you have an account with the Fed itself. Um, then it would come down to whether whether people want food or not, and yeah, hungry people don't stay hungry for long. I think I could see, there are sort of minorities out there who are already in on the game of money. They understand what it is. They've been railing against this stuff ever since Nixon. Um, I could see it more as the majority of people will go along with it, but there could be a decent sized underground faction that that doesn't buy into um, the money side of things, uh, and that's where a whole lot of barter or whatever could be done. Um, But yeah, I guess the way I see it is people will go along with it if they're desperate. If you have no money in the bank and you have no way to buy food, I just see most people as being much more likely to go along with what they're told rather than to rebel if it means them going hungry. Most people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. If you cut that off for just a very short period of time, they'll do anything to get food.
Yeah, yeah. Although I still think that the next crisis is just going to be so huge. I just can't see that they're going to be able to, you know, control it all. So, yeah, I mean, granted, they probably will try and pull some hat out of the bag like that, a cat out of the bag like that. But then, I mean, there will be in that gap. There's bound to be like an underground system. I agree with you there. I think that's gonna maybe it will result in multiple situations. Yeah, multiple different things happening, barter and yeah, sort of underground black markets for things and
And
mm.
and in the middle of all this, there's going to be detection of the signs of the flippening coming, because you don't want to forget that there's going to have to keep an eye on not just only what's happening with the climate, but volcanic activity, earthquakes, stuff like that. There's going to be, for us anyway, who are aware, we need to be multi-focused on all sorts of things like that. We should not forget this. It's been put in the back burner there in the conversation, to know the collapse and stuff like that. But at any time, something abrupt can hit, and we need to continue to be vigilant. I was noticing that I know it was Hugh's recent creation, the gyrate reset and the flippening, and that there might have been a metaphor too through this. But I think we still need to maybe participate in this concept. Maybe it's too late in the meeting to talk about it now, but maybe that could be a subject for next meeting. Um, I don't know if anybody wants to follow up on this.
I think it all ties back to the same thing here. The point in all of this is to just simplify and get back to basics as much as you can. Sort of no matter what happens, uh, if there was a full blown some kind of natural disaster or something that initiates some kind of real whole scale collapse or whatever. The idea being that sort of no matter what happens, you have a robust way of dealing with it. So not putting all your eggs in any one basket and being able to go with the flow. Um, yeah, I mean, who knows what the future looks like? Um, yeah,
Well, it was mostly, thank you, Mr. McKee. Thank you very much, actually, for your contribution, today. But it was Hugh mostly who used to talk about the flippening, because we didn't.
mm-hmm.
Most people were just listening when he was talking. But I think it would be interesting, maybe next time, to go a bit back into that, because I think it should not be left unexplored, and we should continue to actually spread it around, posts about it, and well, get people a bit on edge about it, because it's a good concept. I've been looking at quite a few interesting old videos that were posted, and somebody called Louis, who is an Irish guy who's participated in a couple of meetings and he was on our mailing list, sent me a very interesting video that I posted on the sub and also on the Gyrate Reset about it, about a previous event of flippening that could have been explored through various mammoth stomach content and everything like that. So I really like to maybe talk about it maybe next week or at another meeting. the flip to a no electricity, no grocery future would be a large enough flippening for me anyway. Yeah, I know. But as you said, Hugh said it was both a metaphor and real. So it's all mental preparation. Talking about that is not, it's not, we're not just talking about groceries. We're talking about an awful lot of things. No.
But I think that. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, I think that the psychological part of that is by far the most important part. If the Earth was to literally, flip tomorrow, what the heck could any of us do? What would you do? That's to think of it like that though is sort of more important, and I think that's where it's good to get that through to other people or whatever. I think the purpose of the flippening is best served in the psychological sphere. To think that all of this stuff that you think is sort of permanent or whatever right now could tomorrow go completely upside down. Because what that does is it pokes holes in everything that you have prepared. It pokes holes in your idea of permanence and of something you can rely on that's going to be there tomorrow. So, yeah, I think I can't speak at all towards the geophysical side of things, but that the psychological importance of thinking of things like that is imperative, I think, to not take anything for granted. And yeah, the less you have to lose, I think the better prepared you are for whatever comes your way. So, yeah, if anyone else has stuff to add when it comes to the physical side of things, I think that's great. But the psychological side of things, I think, is the utmost importance when it comes to that particular topic.
The thing is, I feel like the flippening is already here. There's already enough stuff now with this whole Russia-Ukraine thing. Things are really like going into hyperdrive now. I just don't really see the point in worrying about whether the Earth's going to flip. I'm sorry to push back on this, but I just feel like there's already enough holes being poked in our reality. Like shit's getting real now. Like, you know, there's going to be a financial crisis before the end of this year. Like it's almost guaranteed. I mean, I don't know what more they can do really. If not this year, it's got to be next year. But I mean, prices by the end of this year, like gas and everything, and just all these things we've got used to, it's all going away. Literally, it's going away in front of our eyes. So I don't really see the point in. As you say, there's nothing you can do. Like literally, there's nothing you can do. What's the fucking point?
That's my point, though.
I don't really agree with that because actually, if you look at the manifesto again, there's a whole interesting part. After the survival of the collapse of the system, there is a whole chapter on the flippening and surviving the flippening and whatever. It's touching everything we're talking about, the mental preparation as well as the practical preparation, but mostly it's an exercise. It's an exercise that I think it's typically an extinctionati thing. And I think we might need to revisit that, not just in, oh, we need to worry about the flip. No, it's not that we need to worry about the flip. We need to explore our attitude as well as to the collapse attitude to the flipping and eventually to the volcanic nature or to the nuclear whatever. All these things are part of a process.
Yeah, I suppose I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I do get it. Yeah, it's just more of a psychological idea that, yeah, as Mr. Mackey was saying, and you're saying that things could just go away in an instant. And I suppose you could also put that, you could put, yeah, the idea of, say, if, yeah, the Russia and US do go, we do have World War III or whatever, that's an idea of, yeah, there's nothing you can do and it would happen in almost an instant. So in that respect, I guess it's useful to psychologically prepare ourselves for the idea that everything will go away in an instant. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's not about worrying or preparing. It's about acceptance. And the idea that everything could go away tomorrow is what makes you accept today. And and live in the moment. That's where I think it's the most useful.
But I guess just to say that the idea of just like researching like all the, you know, how likely is it, when is it likely to happen, all of that, I just find is just why bother? Like, it's just a lot of hot air over, you know, you could be doing other things like going planting or meditating or something. I just, I don't.
Yeah, but it's also defining who we are as the Extinctionati, and all these. Well, I don't want to be put in a box. I'm not putting anyone in a box, but what we've kind of shaped is an attitude, is a response, is a way of carrying ourselves in these end times, and all these concepts are important for our spiritual growth, and that's why not taking it from a sensationalist point of view, or you know, worrying, oh my god, and or extra doomer thing, more like we need to go back. It actually does you good because, you know, it's the truth. The methane situation is still there. The climate catastrophe is still there. We just talking about Russia, Ukraine, economy, everything, but that's much more important, and we can't leave that in the background. You know.
Another thing is that Lord Hugh, he was very, very keen on reading up on history. Would it benefit us? I mean, well, for one like me who's not very grounded in history, to look at what did other societies do when they collapsed. Of course, we can say that things are worse now, as you mentioned, all the problems that we have. In addition, Sophie, like climate chaos, climate change, nuclear, fallout possibilities. But we might glean something from the way people adapted, adjusted, or helped each other in societies that collapsed.
Yeah, he actually often talked about that, but he often analyzed the attitude that is in for example, people resorting to cults and funny behaviors, and you know, sort of things like that when they were faced with in history, like a collapse of various civilizations, or people going into human sacrifices, or all sorts of things like that. So there is a lot to look at. But as you said when you introduced the concept, uh, in the past, people could always bounce back because they had intact ecosystems. This
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
time we're probably not going to be at all in that situation.
Yeah, there were. I remember the. He also liked to talk about Rebecca Solnit's book about. I
Mhm.
forget the title, but it's about the New Orleans experience of people help. I think a paradise built in hell or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. That Rebecca Solnit. I can't remember the book. I think you're right. I think that is very upbeat and optimistic. Yeah, I like it. Mm. Okay. Is there? We're an hour and 45 minutes into the meeting. Are you? Would you like us to continue a little bit on the topic of collapse, or shall we leave it for today and continue next week in the Eastern meeting on whatever subject people want?
Yeah, I just want to say I know I might sound obsessed with the economy or the Russia Ukraine thing, but I I should probably spend less time worrying about that, because in light of, as you say, like the climate thing. But I think in our everyday lives, this whole, you know, abrupt climate change is very abstract. You know, I don't necessarily think that we can say 100% that, you know, everything is that the methane bomb is going to go off within 10 years. Like, I don't know if we can be sure. There's a lot we don't know. I mean, Hugh did say that as well. So, you know, I don't think we should sort of, what's the way of putting it, sort of wish for climate disaster to just happen tomorrow, and I think that by looking at the crises that are immediately in front of us, that does give us an indication of, where that our civilization is failing, and that it is, an absolute abomination to what it's done to this planet. So yeah, that's my little thought for the day.
Sure. Sure, let's explore that again, because it's interesting what you're saying. Yeah, we should look at this. We should look again at the abrupt climate change, at the flippening, I think, in the next meeting. I just remembered, and going south reminded me there of something I meant to ask at the beginning of the meeting, and I completely forgot. We were on Discord thinking, would somebody like to do a short video saying that Hugh has left us and how it happened and when it happened, so that we could put it up on YouTube and various channels, because there's a lot of, and Discord, because there's lots of people who are still asking, and we have got little circle. We've been through all this. We know what happened, but there are still people who don't know, or there hasn't been anything formal done announcing the fact that Hugh has passed away, and and all that. So I'm kind of, I really, I just don't feel like doing it, and I'm still very emotional about all that. So I'm not really in a place where I want to just do a formal announcement like that. But is there anybody here who has the talent, the time, and the will to do a very simple announcement that Going South would be able to put on his channel, and maybe some other people who have been following Hugh for a while? You're saying maybe emotion is the right way to do that video. Yeah, it's possible, but it's me. I'm not, I don't know. I don't really feel like doing it. Would there be anybody who would just do it?
I might have a little go at making something, but I don't know. I don't really want to put a time on it because I've got a lot of stuff going on at the minute. But I might try and just make it. Maybe if everybody just try and make a little video, and then we vote on the best one with a little speech or something, just to it's a good idea to ask everyone.
Yeah. Maybe we could share it when it's done through what would it be? Because for a video, maybe Discord, or to Going South, or Dropbox, or what is it? The other thing where you can put videos, Google, whatever, Drive, and we could do that. So there would be something, but it doesn't have to be long. Like, you just have to be stating the obvious. Yes, and Going South is saying to use a clip from his Equinox fire video. Yeah, that could be also a good one, because yeah. All right.
I wouldn't be any good at that, but maybe just something like that Equinox video, and then maybe you could put some text over it or something.
Yeah,
like
that could be I wouldn't know how to do that, but if somebody knows how to put a text on it, that would be maybe the best thing. There wouldn't be any voice then.
Yeah, maybe if everybody writes a little piece, and I don't know, and then we can see which one's best, or
Yeah.
and then we can just post it, overlay it on Going South's video.
Okay. So we do that. Okay. So we're going to I'm going to stop recording. Does anybody want to do the little exercise that we used to do at the end? Would you like to do Joe, I know how to do video shit, yeah. That we do at the end of the meeting. Shall we just fall silent for a few instants before I turn off the recording, if that's okay?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. So I say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
All right. See you
Bye.
guys.
Take care.